Feist and Joe Mac from New York. Joe, it's football season. We got a game tonight in the NFL. Thank God we got rid of the preseason. Although I did really well in preseason, I just want to get down to the real stuff now. So I know you feel the same.
Oh, I'm with you 100%, Jim. I feel the same way. It's funny you said that because we actually had a pretty good preseason ourselves at Jim Hurley's network. And, we love to cash whenever we can, and obviously we love our clients to win whenever they can. But let's go. I mean, the preseason has really kind of gotten ridiculous in the NFL. Teams just not playing many starters. So you're right. Let's get to it. We're all excited for the start of the real season, and you know what? It's going to be great tonight. I know they're kind of jamming it down everybody's throats the 100th year of the NFL, but you know what? This is a good game to splash out there for America. I mean, you got the Packers, Bears, great rivalry. This is going to be the 199th time they've played. And, the Packers have obviously had their way most of the time, especially in Chicago during the Aaron Rodgers era. And it's funny, everything I'm reading, he's kind of tweaking the Bears, saying that he realized the Bears have the number one defense coming into this game. But I saw one comment where he said, well, the last time I checked, we've done pretty well in that city. So he's, looking to be a little bit of the villain tonight. Should be fun. They got the number at 3. He might have to lay 3 minus 120, 125 in some places, and a total of 46.5. And for sure, Jim Hurley's network is going to be giving out the side in total, maybe a little parlay action too. All you got to do, Jim, is call us toll-free, 1-800-323-4453. Again, toll-free number. We've been around since 1985, winning all the time. 1-800-323-4453. Or you can check us out on the web, jimhurley.com.
That's awesome. And I know you're going to have a good season, Joe. And, talking about this game, I guess it's the 100th anniversary of the NFL. I know neither one of us were around for the beginning, thank God. But this is exciting. And Aaron Rodgers coming back healthy. We know he's a premier quarterback, has been for a long time. He hasn't necessarily accomplished as much. Well, I shouldn't say necessarily. He just hasn't accomplished as much in championships as people thought he would. But there's been controversy there. They changed the head coach. I think it's overplayed what the relationship is between them. I think that they're going to get down to business. They both, LaFleur and especially Rodgers, creeping up at that age now that you're going to start expecting some decline. You have to expect him to come out with a vengeance to try to get back to the top and maybe make a Super Bowl run. I mean, he doesn't have that many years left to waste them. He's paid well. He's healthy. He's got a good crew there. I mean, there's obvious questions on the offensive line, et cetera, et cetera. We know the Bears are solid in certain departments, and the big question is the quarterback. Is he going to be able to perform at the highest levels in these big games? And this is a big game. When you get to division games, they mean a lot more than your other games, your conference or non-conference games, because you have to win your division to assure yourself a playoff spot, or then you have to go and have enough victories to beat out other teams in the conference in other divisions in order to get a wild card. So the primo effort by these teams is let's go out and win the division and not have to worry about the wild card stuff. This is a big game. Chicago won the division last year. Packers were not involved. They weren't close. And this is huge. And when you have a division that's loaded with teams like the Lions, who nobody really knows what to expect from them, but the Vikings, the Bears, and the Packers are all very, very good teams and could easily make their way to the Super Bowl. So they got to put a lot of effort into this game.
No doubt about it. You said a mouthful and you were right on. This is a division that really, if things play out right, they could get three teams into the postseason. Now, you said that the Bears won the division last year, and when you think about it, they probably had as big a crushing a loss as you could have week one. Now, they covered for all the folks who got the points at Lambeau Field last year in week one. People are going to remember that. Khalil Mack came in there basically off 2 or 3 practices after having been traded late in the summer from the Raiders. He was just dynamite, and the Bears dominated that game for more than a half. Wound up losing 24-23. They, again, took the point, 6.5 points. You won with the Bears. And the Bears were 6-0 spread-wise in the division last year. But that loss could have crushed them and didn't. So it showed a lot of grit from this team. They came back. They won the division. They wound up having some really big wins. If they had a decent kicker, obviously, they could have gone a couple of rounds into the playoffs last year. But I think a big storyline here is, as you said, they talk about the relationship between Rodgers and LaFleur. It's definitely overhyped. I mean, they got to give both guys a chance here. I mean, let's face it, Rodgers played under Mike McCarthy for years and years, and that relationship certainly soured as time went on. But they got to give these guys a clean slate. They got to give LaFleur a chance. But from everything I'm hearing and reading, Jim, it sounds like LaFleur, as much as he trusts Rodgers to do the right thing, call audibles at the line and everything, he wants a little bit more balance in this offense. So we're going to see if the Bears are prepared to handle a two-pronged type of look tonight, as opposed to in the past with Rodgers, let's face it, was throwing the ball 45 to 50 times a game. Anyway, there's a lot of great storylines here. Number is basically showing you, they're just giving you home field advantage. Maybe not even that. They were kind of telling you in the number, I think, that the Packers might be the slightly better team, which I don't necessarily agree with. But for all the folks looking at the over, hey, Rodgers certainly is capable of putting up a 30-point game. Whether Trubisky is or not remains to be seen. He can do some damage with his legs. I think that's going to be a big part of this game. What Trubisky does on 3rd and 4, 3rd and 5, can he run for it sometimes? I think it's going to be a tight fit for most of the way. But again, we're going to see one of the storylines here. Do the Packers attempt to run the ball more, or does Rodgers resort to his own ways? And who knows? Then maybe there will be some difficulties between coach and player. But for right now, you got to give these guys a clean slate. Go at it, see what goes on. Like you said, Jim, divisional games are so big in the NFL, and especially if you can win on the other guy's field, and then, they won't play again until December 15th. If the Packers can deal with here, the Bears may be chasing after them all year long.
Well, you said a mouthful as well, and I agree with you. Let's talk a little bit about the running game and what I predicted 2 years ago, that the pendulum had swung very far to one side for the passing game. And almost your running backs became, unimportant, except for maybe picking up a blitz here and there. But it was drop back, throw the ball 50, 60 times, and get as much out of your wide receivers. I think that pendulum is going to start swinging back, and I'll tell you why. Economics. There's not enough good quarterbacks to have on 32 teams and then have decent backups as well. So if you put that much pressure on your quarterbacks to do all that work, and they're going to get hit, because there's a lot of Khalil Macks out there, maybe not as good as him, but a lot of good ones that get to those quarterbacks and hurt these guys, and you end up losing your biggest and most expensive player for big parts of a season, or maybe forever, like we just saw Andrew Luck quit. So we're going to have balance. It's ridiculous not to have balance. Run the ball, throw the ball, block up front, play good defense. It's the same formula that made the NFL what it is, and I think you're going to start seeing more and more of that swinging back to the running game to balance out this nonsense of dropping back quarterbacks 50, 60 times a game. And I think you're going to see that, and you're going to have to protect Rodgers. You can't let him out there and be a target for Khalil Mack. The guy is an exceptional athlete, and he's going to get to him. And all you need is one bad hit a game. They just made a move down in Texas to help with Watson. And, you look at the team that runs the ball more than anybody else in the league, which is the Seattle Seahawks. Now that they got Clowney to boost up their rush on the quarterback and the end rush, I think Seattle might end up being the team that wins the West in the NFC. Because I'm looking for regression. So and they run the ball more than anybody else in the league, and I'm starting to see that. And I predicted it 2 years ago. I thought it would happen sooner, but I think it's happening now. And the Bears run the ball very well. I think the Packers are going to try to run the ball quite a bit, and I would not be surprised if this game went under the total because of that. And the fact that no offense is going to be in total sync this early in the season.
Jim, that's a great point. And, this whole talk of running back being devalued in the last couple of years, you know what? We see what guys mean to their teams. I mean, right here in New York, Saquon Barkley, I'm not a big fantasy league guy, but he was like the number one pick from what I heard from like 3 fantasy league. He can catch the ball out of the backfield too, but I mean, great running back and takes that pressure off the quarterback. Look what the Cowboys just paid to re-sign Elliott. He's a pain in the neck, but you know what? You got to have him. If the Cowboys are going to do anything, they should have got to have him. I'm with you 1,000%. And think about one thing with Aaron Rodgers. I was just thinking about this. He suffered really 2 major injuries in about the last 5 or 6 years. Both of them occurred against divisional opponents. He got, I believe it was his shoulder banged up against the Vikings a couple of years ago, and he had some other injury, back or shoulder, against these Bears a few years back. He has had like a revolving door of offensive linemen. As you said, Rodgers, and I agree, Rodgers should have more than 1 Super Bowl title. To me, on his resume, he does not. I don't give him all the blame for it, but very much like Brett Favre, these guys should have won more than 1 title. But, Rodgers is operating behind both an aging and kind of decrepit offensive line for the better part of the last, I would say, 6 or 7 years. And you're right, you can't stand him up there, Khalil Mack or anybody else, and expect the guy to just stand there and chuck it. He has a quick release, a laser fine point passing, precision. And, I mean, he flips the ball. Him and Brady, they get it out. It seems like they never get sacked. But they're taking hits. So you're right. At the end of these games, if you really want to have a formula or a recipe for winning in the NFL, let's say you run 60 plays, offensive plays in a game, give or take. You want that balance to be there. You want 28 passes, 32 rushes, things along that nature. And I'm with you. We also talked about in the past, Jim, the value of backup quarterbacks. You're right. These starting quarterbacks, to me, they have to step back and throw it. They're taking all these hits. All right, maybe sometimes you only get sacked 2 or 3 times a game, once or twice a game, but they're taking a lot of hits. And you just can't ask a 30-year-old quarterback, let's say, to get through a 16-game season and survive it. It's just the law of averages is not on their side. They're going to take a beating. So one other point you got with the running game, offensive lines, for the most part, don't stick together like they did in the old days. Obviously, you got free agency, and every time you turn around, teams are chopping up their offensive lines. There's very few lines in the league where, let's say, 4 of the 5 or 5 of the 5 guys have been together for more than 2 years in a row. It just doesn't happen. So all those things contribute. You got to have a running game. There's no 2 ways about it. Like you said, Seattle last year, surprisingly so, but they ran the ball more than anybody. They were the number 1 rushing team in the league. And now, like I said, with Clowney, they might have, and they don't want Russell Wilson stepping back and taking too many hits themselves. They might be a little bit of a surprise team. I see their over-under win totals around 9. I could see them being a double-digit win team, and if they can just split with the Rams, I could see them being maybe a 12-win team this year.
Well, absolutely. You take a look at the New England Patriots. They just lost their center, who was quite good, actually, and I believe he's out for the year. They just signed a new guy in there. You got to worry about that. You got a 42-year-old quarterback that really has never really been hit that much. But take a look at what they're going to be doing on offense. They got some very large wide receivers. They're going to get the ball out quickly. They're not going to let Brady sit back there and take shots. They're going to run the ball. You're going to see a ground and pound team out of the Patriots. The evolution of everything. And it begins with one word, C. Change is the word. Everything must change because it's a copycat league. Everybody's going pass, it's not going to work because you know how to load up against the pass. You get the quarterback off his position. He's not as accurate. I listened to an interview the other day with Steve Proline. You remember him. He played 17 years in the league. During his playing years, he had 19. In 17 years, he had 19 surgeries. That's unbelievable. And that was in an era where they actually did run the ball more. Okay? So now, then when he gets done and retires, he has 2 more surgeries to replace both hips. So in his lifetime as a football player, 21 surgeries. Now, you just can't do that. Andrew Luck was the guy that got sacked more times than anybody else under that incredibly terrible regime that he worked under with Gregson and all that stuff, and they did nothing to protect him, and they destroyed him. And now he's out of the league. And this was one of the best 5 quarterbacks in the league because, he had so much talent. Hopefully he's okay, and who knows, maybe he'll come back someday. Bottom line is everything changes. You're going to see a whole different league this year. Everything's going to go in a different direction than it has been going in, and I think you're going to start to see it tonight, and you're going to see it periodically every week.
Yeah, no, I agree. And just to throw in one last thing from my side, you're seeing a lot more teams playing 5 defensive backs all the time. Some of these guys are the best athletes on the team, so they want to get them out there. And I think you're right, Jim. You're going to see spots tonight, I think, where the Bears sit back. They put 5 defensive backs out there, right? They've got a guy to cover the slot guy, all that stuff. And Rodgers is going to look at the line of scrimmage, and you know what? He's going to ask his ground game to chew some clock, chew some yards, and not put the onus on Rodgers to throw the ball 45 times tonight. So I think it all adds up. Like you said, there's a lot of things change. There's always in the air, but when you look at it, you're not going to have the success when teams are loading up pass rushes, loading up 5 and 6 defensive backs. You know what? You have to counter that with something. The ground game can counter it. And, I tend to agree with you. I think the under is looking pretty good tonight. I think everyone's just going to think off the top of the head. You got the Packers and all the stuff. You know what? I can see this be a grind them out, 2017, 1916 type of affair where you may get a few field goals where teams tighten up down in the red zone and, you wind up getting an under. But we shall see.
Well, it's going to be great. We have baseball as well. We got a big college football weekend, and of course we got all the pro football games coming up. This is going to be awesome week. I can't wait. Joe, is there anything else, baseball, football, whatever you want to talk about?
Well, one last thing. He touched on college football. It's a good weekend. I mean, we got a couple of top 20 head-to-head matchups with Texas hosting LSU. I just looked up a stat. Texas is 5-1-1 against the spread as a home dog the last 3+ years. That's pretty impressive. And you've got a big one down in Death Valley where the defending champ Clemson is hosting Texas A&M. Big number there, 17.5. Texas A&M's not quite in this, obviously at this point, but when you really look at it, Clemson's being asked to cover some mighty big numbers the last couple of years. We'll see if they do it here. I can tell you last week, Jim Hurley Network, we won our game of the week. We had SMU. I really loved them. I liked their coach, Sonny Knight, as a dog. Last week, that price kept coming down, but he was still a dog, and we won for Jim Hurley Network. The game of the week was SMU over Arkansas State. We also cashed in with Boise State. Great comeback win as a road dog down in Tallahassee. That game got moved, and from Jacksonville, it didn't bother Boise State. They showed a lot of grit in the second half. So those were 2 of the big winners for the Jim Hurley Network. We plan on having a lot more. Again, 1-800-323-4453, Jim Hurley's Network. College football, like you said, NFL Week 1. Lots of baseball winners, lots of important games, National League, wild card race and whatnot. Should be a great time.
Well, Joe, thank you very much for today's podcast. Great information. Always great chatting with you. Have a great weekend. We'll talk again at the beginning of next week.
Sounds good. Have a good one. Bye-bye, Jim.
You too, Joe. Take care. And make sure you go to Jim Hurley Network and the JimFeist.com network. And great podcasts, great selections, articles, And if you ever have anything you want us to talk about, just send us a note, and we'll be glad to take care of it. And thank you again for listening in.
Carl's